What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heaven, New York, and on the phone we got Addi of Sólstafir. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Hello, Alex. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you here. The newest album, Endless Twilight of Codependent Love, is scheduled to come out this November via Season and Mist. Could the first single you released, ACCDC, almost serve as a clear representation of what the whole album is going to sound like, or is this just the beginning, just the tip of the iceberg, as I like to say?
Not at all. It's not really what it stands for. Well, yes and no, but record label always says, "Oh, what's going to be the first song that sort of shows everybody how this album is?" And I'm like, none of the songs is going to represent this album because they're very different from one another. But this one sort of, it's almost like a best of. I mean, it has a few parts that it's an 11-minute song, so it shows a little bit just what kind of music we play, but it doesn't really tell how the album is.
Mm-hmm. Well, being that this is the first, this is track number 1 off of Endless Twilight, do you almost feel like this is also appropriate? Does this album have an underlying concept around it that, listeners should start with ACCDC and end with Ulfr?
No, not really. I mean, we're sort of old school. All of our albums have started with a war ensemble, and the last song is the Seasons in the Abyss. So I don't know why we sort of inhaled this thing, but we did a long time ago. So this is the war ensemble on the album, and the other one is like the Seasons in the Abyss, the title track. So, but it's not a musical concept album or lyrical concept album. No, it's not really. It's just a rock and roll album. Mm-hmm. Shouldn't be taken that seriously.
That's really funny to hear, because I've always thought that your music was so technically impressive that everything is taken seriously on it.
No, not at all. I mean, we don't even plan shit. It's just things happen. I do know that sort of when this intro on this ACCDC was written, I always sort of foresee that it would be a good contender as an opener, and so it's always in the back of my head until something else comes up. I think this should be the opener. Then nothing else really came up that was sort of better than, but weird stuff happens. I mean, people come up with weird ideas, and those are usually the best. The weirder, the better.
Yeah, and I feel like the less you revolve your music around a preconceived idea, the more organic the songwriting is as well,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, I mean, we've tried, let's try like a normal song. It just comes out rubbish, really. We don't really like writing standard normal songs. We find it very challenging or cheesy, boring, Mm-hmm. It's just not as much fun.
Has there ever been a time, though, where maybe lyrics or a story or maybe some sort of subject matter could have influenced the music itself as well? Or do you need music before you lay down any lyrics at all? Sure.
On the 2009 album, Cold, there's a song called Necrolog, which is some sort of a memorial song. Well, it is a memorial song of our friend Kitty. So I think we sort of wrote the theme before. It was supposed to be a memorial song. So when the song was sort of written or performed, we already knew what the topic was. So it did have an effect. But that's sort of, very rare for us. Normally, we're just some guys creating songs out of jams or riffs that we have no idea what the topic is going to be, because there's not really like a singer in the band. It's just afterwards I have to put some vocals on it, but first and foremost I'm just a guitar player. It's jamming songs with the guys.
Mm-hmm. But one thing that I've always been curious about is, for your guitar work, do you have a theoretical element that the music revolves around? Do you know what scale and chord and key you're working off of? Does that come into play at all?
Hell no, man. No, not at all. Well, the joke is that Scythor, or aka Gringo, Gringo is little bit sort of uneducated musician. So he can talk you through scales and crap like that. And then a few years ago, we got Hallgrímur in the band, the drummer. So, and he's an educated musician as well. So sometimes they're talking this gibberish. And, sometimes, it's, but now, I mean, it's too much. I'm pretty sure that when Malcolm Young was writing Highway to Hell, he didn't think about what scale it was, or minor, major, just kick out the jams, It's more like that. Whatever sounds good is right. I don't care what it's called. Mm-hmm. This is music for the ears, not for the eyes. I don't care what it says on paper.
That's the beautiful saying. It's music for the ears, not for the eyes. That's a really good argument to argue with theory Nazis.
Did you just say theory Nazis?
Yeah, that's what I call them.
What a funny sentence. I always say to some friends of mine, I pull this joke on them, hey man, can you play me like a pentatonic scale in D minor? And some guys say, yeah, sure, here you go. And I'm like, nerd alert.
What you need to do is to really call people on their shit, make up the name of a scale, and see if they'll learn to play it. And then you'll see who's bullshitting with their theory knowledge.
Yeah, you can do it with the drummers as well. You can go and say to a drummer, hey, do you know how to play Polynesian Nightmare? I challenge you to go on YouTube and check out Polynesian Nightmare on drums. It's really good stuff.
I'll definitely check that out. When you look at the entirety of the Sólstafir catalog, though, when you look at Masterpiece of Bitterness, to Cold, to Atta, to this new album, Endless Twilight of Codependent Love, do you almost though look at these albums in a way as like a self-portrait or a representation of who you personally are in a way?
It's kind of, yeah, because, people ask me, what were you doing in 2007? I'm like, writing code. What were you doing in 1995? Writing the demo. So what were you doing in 2011? We're recording Svartisandar. So yeah, sure. I can picture my whole life since 1995 what the band was doing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's sure. Ótta was sort of, I quit drinking, and it's my sort of sobriety period making Ótta. So yeah, there's more stuff. And this one here, this new album is, I was always connected. I was having a child, so.
Oh, congratulations.
So, no, thank you. So, it's, so we were sort of in the studio while the kid got born, so, and even Hallgrímur the drummer as well, so. Sure, we will connect this album to, having kids, and one was being connected with, quit drinking. So, yeah, sure.
That's a really interesting way of putting it. It's amazing because, I don't think artists realize this or not, but when something happens in your life, like, overcoming addiction or, quitting drinking or, having a child, it plays such an impact on you. It's going to influence your art one way or another, whether you want it to or not. Of course.
I mean, that's what I've said all the time. I mean, even having a small car crash or having a new girlfriend, having a new girlfriend dumping you, discovering a new band, walking on a mountain, go to Mexico, go to Sweden, just stay in Iceland, your mom dies, your grandfather dies, it's all gonna affect you. So it's all gonna affect you, and maybe you won't realize it. So, of course, I mean,
yeah,
quit drinking did have some effect, or just being hungover, suicidal all the time, of course, did have an effect, or having a kid, it's all gonna affect you, of course.
Yeah, and a lot of artists like to say that they use art to escape reality, but I don't think art is independent of it one way or another.
I don't think it's escape. I just when I'm standing on stage with the boys, maybe playing in a 20,000 packed tent on a festival in Belgium. This is what I dreamed of being. There's nothing ever since I was a 11-year-old kid writing ACCDC on my, school stuff, my school books, drawing ACCDC logo. This is what I dreamed of being. So, music is just it's not an escape. It's sort of, it's more like, being in reality. This is sort of dream reality.
Absolutely. You mentioned ACDC a lot. I'm guessing that's one of your favorite bands?
Yeah, I mean, I still, many of my favorite bands that were like when I was 13 years old is still what I'm at the age of 43.
Yeah, you never outgrow it.
I mean, I don't really outgrow listening to Autopsy or ACDC or even Duran Duran or stuff like that. I still listen to it, but when I was 13, I didn't know Neil Young. I didn't know a lot of other stuff. So I add more stuff. I haven't really abandoned many bands that I've sort of fallen in love with.
Exactly. And words of wisdom from Lemmy himself, if you think you're too old to rock and roll, that means you probably are.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I thought once that because, you have your parents, and I saw that my dad didn't listen to Deep Purple when he was 40, even though he saw them play in Iceland when he was 20. And I always thought, because, I fell in love with Rain and Blood when I was like 12. It was the craziest shit I've heard, and I thought, will I still be listening to Rain and Blood when I'm like 60? And I'm 43 now, and I still listen to Rain and Blood like a few times a month, from beginning to end. And it's like, not much is going to change for the next 17 years that I will stop listening to Rain and Blood. I can't imagine it.
Yeah, it's a classic.
I even, my first tattoo 2 years ago was a Rain and Blood album cover, so...
That's awesome, and that's dedication. Did you see the picture of Bob Ross, painting the picture of the Rain and Blood album cover? It's a meme, obviously, but it's amazing.
No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I'll text you a picture of that when we're done.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Me too.
I got a couple of other questions for you, but regarding the music, because I've always considered, I don't know how you feel about this term, but I've always thought that Sólstafir's music has a very experimental quality behind it, because there's an element of, black metal, but there's elements of, just post-rock and post-metal, whatever that means. Has it always been easy for Sólstafir to, try new things in the songwriting process?
Yeah, sure. In 1995, we're doing a demo. It's very much like Burzum and Darkthrone. And already in 95, we started listening to the Smashing Pumpkins, mixed with, new Fields of the Nephilim. So we are mixing Mayhem with Smashing Pumpkins and Fields of the Nephilim in 1995. And you can tell that even on our 1996 first CD, Til Valhallar, sort of, and then we continue that path. Basically, we add more like Neil Young into it, Mogwai, Godspeed You Black Emperor. So, it's we're still, there's still Darkthrone influence on our new album. There's a lot of, yeah.
Well, what's funny is that a lot of people have because a lot of us metalheads, we always like to categorize a band in a certain genre on the periodic table of metal subgenres. People have called you black metal, people have called you doom, people have called you melodic death metal, people have called you all sorts of this, but I really just consider Sólstafir's music to be music, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, I think once you become successful, like Nine Inch Nails, I mean, Nine Inch Nails is Nine Inch Nails, right?
Yeah.
Pink Floyd is just Pink Floyd. I mean, I'm not going to say Nine Inch Nails is industrial music. It's not fair. I'm not going to say Pink Floyd is hippie rock or rock and roll, or so it's just Sigur Rós is just Sigur Rós, and even Metallica is Metallica. They aren't thrash metal. I mean, so I think if people say that our music is just Sólstafir, that makes me proud. That makes me sort of accomplish certain thing.
Yeah, and
but I don't. Yeah.
Oh, I was saying that I always think that when a band is criticized or saying, "Oh, this just sounds like any other album that they've done," or "This sounds like every other album that they've done," I consider that a compliment, because that means that the band has their own distinct sound that works for people.
Sure. But then again, I mean, like on the last album we did, there's some people saying, "Oh, you've changed your sound." Oh yeah, well, we've been doing that for 20 years now.
Yeah.
We like to change a bit, otherwise we'll just be playing Burzum rip-off demos. stuff. So yeah, we like to change, but we still, I think, we're always maintaining our sound. But it's, I mean, a friend of mine, we were borrowing snare drums a few years ago from a friend of mine because we wanted to get many options. And so I went to pick up some snare drums from him. He had like a ton of them, and all the signature Yamaha, DW, Ludwig shit. They all sounded the same. So he sort of had tuned all his snares towards his ears, but they pretty much sounded all the same. So it's just how you tune it to your own feeling. And a friend of mine told me a few years ago, it's so cool, you've sort of found your guitar sound. And I thought it was so weird that he told me that, because I'm always changing my guitar sound. None of the albums have the same guitar, amp, pedals, anything. But he told me that he's always hearing the same guitar sound. And it was so weird. But then again, like the snare drum story, I'm just tuning it in what I think is cool. If you understand what I mean.
Absolutely. And like, what's funny is if your music is too experimental or incorporates too many different influences, people criticize it for being all over the place. But if you stick with the same thing, you're criticized for being repetitive. So there's no way of winning.
Yeah, but too bad for them. We're doing this for ourselves. I mean, we're writing music that we like. I mean, it's always been the case. And sometimes we've been afraid that, for instance, when we wrote Fiara, it was a weird thing. It was a really weird song to write. I mean, and we thought, people are gonna hate this shit. This is very soft. And it's very, has a volatility, very clean vocals that are female vocals sounding like a children's choir, or almost like Beaky's backing vocals. And we were like, oh, people are gonna freak out. People loved it. We were like, what? Here we are, thinking that people would freak out for calling this rubbish, but we didn't really care. We liked it.
Yeah, there's so many things that are supposed to go one way and end up going a completely different direction.
Yeah, exactly, man. So at the end of the day, we trust our own instinct, what we like. And if someone else likes it, it's great. It truly is great.
Yeah, and I've always thought that your music has many different vibes. Like Masterpiece of Bitterness was the first time I've ever listened to you guys. And like to go from like I Myself, the Visionary Head, to Nature Strutter, to Blood-Soaked Velvet, and like Ritual of Fire. I mean, there's just so much different emotions incorporated on there as well. So it's not like, you're going to have to use the same sound to describe the many different elements that you were personally feeling.
No, I mean, exactly. These songs are pretty different from one another. So yeah, same with the new one. I mean, if you listen to the new album, I mean, there's one kind of black metal song, there's one kind of doom metal song, there's one song that's neither, and it's a lot of stuff there. Sometimes you think, does this really fit? Well, it's played on the same guitars by the same guys, the same distortion pedals, so of course it fits. Mm-hmm. It's written in the same room, so of course it fits.
Yeah.
I don't like an album that has the same song structure, same sound, same length of songs, verse, chorus, breakdown, guitar solo. Fuck that. I don't like it.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong. I love listening to the stuff. I mean, I've just described all ACCDC and Motorhead song, but I don't like writing and performing it. There's a difference what I like performing or listening to.
Yeah, and when I saw you on the Paradise Lost tour back in 2017 or 2018.
I think 18.
Yeah, 18. Yep, Paradise Lost and the Atlas Moth was before you guys. That was a great show because I thought it was a very different experience than just simply listening to you. Do you put I just started asking artists this actually, but when you're playing material live, you are taking material that's on the album and just replicating it into a live setting. Is there anything creative about playing live though, because you are replicating the music?
Completely. The song is always alive. You sort of abandon it in the studio. For example, I'll take Bláfjall, the last song of the Bedreimin album, which we've played now pretty much every concert since the album came out. we almost continued writing it by playing it live, let's say 400 times. It's better now than it is on the album, because we sort of, how to put it, we sort of made a live version out of it. It's way much more rock and roll now than it is. And I think a lot of bands, if you listen to, I don't know, just take Seek and Destroy or by Metallica, it came out in 1983. It's a little bit different today. And many of our songs are different today because even Ótta, the song Ótta, it's different today. I sing it a little bit different. I sing it more confident, more comfortably. Fjara is a bit different as well. So all these songs are alive. They're breathing air. So when you stop playing them live, they sort of die. Mm-hmm. Because this stagnate. But when you're always playing them, they're breathing air. They're living creatures, and they continue to alter a little bit.
If people were to see you live on every single tour date, right? Like if they saw you every single tour date live for a year, and you played the same set list, I'm sure it would still be different in a way, right?
Yeah. There would be different jam sessions. There would be different things in between the songs. But slowly, I'm not saying that if you would watch 10 dates in a row during a tour, it would be similar. Because it's a very slow thing. I mean, you do this little bit of lick there, and you think, oh, this is pretty cool. I'll do it again tomorrow. Then it changed a little bit, and you have, we like doing jams in between songs. And I usually don't participate in them because it's normally when I'm introducing songs or changing guitars or whatever I'm doing. And that's pretty cool because the guys are sort of coming up with some jams and I'm like sort of enjoying it. Sometimes I'll just go into some Jim Morrison mode, singing over it. Just something very spontaneous. I have no idea what I'm going to sing. Just, so yeah, things are always breathing alive in a live scenario.
Definitely. And the final question I wanted to ask you is I've actually interviewed quite a bit of bands recently from Iceland. Like I've interviewed Unmazir, and I've interviewed Hellthrow, and I've interviewed Cult of Lilith recently. And, a lot of bands from Iceland I actually remember seeing you guys in the underground. And, it almost seems like Iceland has a very prevalent rock and metal scene, right?
Yeah, it has now for sure. I mean, I remember many years ago, there was no spotlight on Icelandic metal bands, and it was pretty hard because we were sort of trying to get attention. We were very confident that we were a good band, because we were, but there was no spotlight. It was the spotlight was just on Norway, and so now there's more spotlight on Icelandic metal bands than sort of Norwegian. We don't have all the legends, but. So it's a lot of spotlight on Icelandic metal, and we have really good bands, and they're sort of being professional. When we started touring, we were the only metal band touring. There's no metal band in Iceland that toured. Now it's like 5, 6, 7 metal bands that tour all over.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Unmazir was supposed to do their first U.S. tour before the world went to shit.
Yeah. So we've even toured with bands, and sometimes we meet bands on the road. So it's even Roadburn has had Icelandic theme, and it's pretty cool that so many Icelandic bands touring all over.
Yeah, and being that Iceland is so isolated, no pun intended, it's so isolated from so many other countries, and isolation is often the greatest fuel for rock and metal, so maybe that has to help influence the music somehow.
Of course. I mean, I've said this before, when I was watching this documentary that Dave Grohl did, Sonic Highways, did you see that?
Yes, parts of it.
Yeah, he was talking about the scene in Seattle, late 80s, early 90s. I guess late 80s. There was so much isolation. I mean, bands didn't come there. It was so far away. It was just shitty weather, isolation. It was just exactly like Iceland. No bands came here. It was shitty weather. We weren't on the international touring map. So something happened. A spark happened. Like a, Big Bang Theory shit.
Yep. It always happens. There's always like that one band that, you know, starts that one big bang, and then, you know, either that band breaks up or they keep moving forward, and then other bands are either inspired to form, and then they break up, and then other members collaborate with these guys. It's like a living organism.
Of course.
Yep. Everybody, we are here with Sólstafir. Be sure to pick up the brand new album, Endless Twilight of Codependent Love, out on Season of Mist in November. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.